Welcome to The Real Factor. My name's Thor,
And I'm Ed.
and today we're going to discuss 1983's Trading Places. That was directed by John Landis, stars Dan Aykroyd and Eddie Murphy.
So this is comedy came out after Eddie Murphy had kind of become an overnight success. And obviously, he had been doing Saturday Night Live and had a lot of popularity through that. The year before, he got kind of catapulted to superstardom with 48 Hours with Nick Nolte.
Right.
It kind of became a little household name. Now, obviously, this is kind of before he really shot off with Beverly Hills Cop. But this one is really, in my mind, I've seen it many times over the years, and it never gets old. Like, it
Definitely
really
not.
stands the test of time as far as being a classic comedy, a classic holiday film, because it takes place all the way from Thanksgiving into New Year's.
Right.
So you can this can become any period that you want. You can have it as a Christmas. You can add it to that trains, planes, and automobiles if you want to. But this movie has really done well. The comedy in it is still fantastic, witty, and sharp. So this movie is about two guys, one from a posh world in Philadelphia, one from the streets. And they meet. They get kind of by happen chance. I mean, he's one the posh guy, Dan Aykroyd, is carrying some papers out, runs into Eddie Murphy, and he thinks Eddie Murphy is stealing from him, which then creates this conflict that the two bosses of Dan Aykroyd want to create their own little experiment. So they think that because Eddie Murphy's character obviously is from the streets, that if he was taken out of that situation, he could be just as polished businessman as Dan Aykroyd. It's kind of like the whole nature versus nurture, talk that we've all had, throughout the years. And so they create situations that basically allow these two to reverse positions without them knowing anything about it. And so then how do they respond to what's going on, and does this experiment prove anything without giving anything really away? But I expect most of you have probably seen this. If not, go rent it out right now.
There will be spoilers in here. Sorry. I mean, it's from 83.
But so anyways, and it also stars Jamie Lee Curtis as a lovable prostitute who helps Dan Aykroyd.
Wouldn't that be in the job description? To be lovable?
Yes. But yeah, and for her, she's expecting to be paid, as most of them do. Anyway, so getting out of there, what does your
Well, that's part of the business exchange. Anyway, not that I know.
it's the business model that they created.
The other side of that flip side was taking Eddie Murphy to make him a polished business person, but then was taking Dan Aykroyd and put him in poverty, turned into crime, being homeless.
To see if he would, yes.
Yeah, and I think that was the easier one to do, because you take somebody from the streets and you're like, okay, now we're giving you, at the time, this is 1983, we're giving you $80,000. That's a huge salary for someone like that.
Yeah.
At the time, it's a huge salary. You got your own butler, your limousine, your own place. You got nothing. I mean, you had nothing, and now you got everything.
Yeah.
You take the opposite.
So, and then with this, I am going to say there is a lot of suspension of disbelief, because Eddie Murphy takes to the business world very quickly. And some of that is a little bit unrealistic. I mean, we're talking about stock exchange business. This is what they're doing. They're trading commodities, and I mean, this guy has no idea what all this is what's going on. I don't understand stock exchange that well. I know you sell when it's high and you buy when it's low.
At least you got
And I think if you know that going into this, you'll have some idea of kind of the end of the movie, where you realize that
it does get confusing there right at the very last part there.
Yeah,
But
we'll get to that later. But
sure.
But anyways, I just think that, again, this movie has really stood the test of time. the comedy in it, again, very witty. And they use a lot of the Eddie Murphy. Yes, thank you. The Eddie Murphy-isms from what he kind of established with Saturday Night Live. And use that to his advantage. But it worked. It wasn't like they were stealing materials from them. I mean, sometimes whenever you have comedians that do movies or TV, they just kind of borrow their shtick from something else and kind of put it into this. But it worked with this. And really, and then Philadelphia itself was a great setting because you really had the two different worlds there. And in Philadelphia, I've been up to Philadelphia a good bit, even in this age, and it still has that. I mean, it still has. You got the, you've got the downtrodden areas, and you've got the highly polished areas. I mean, it is yes, it's a major city, but I don't necessarily always think of it kind of like New York City kind of deal, but I mean, it's close enough, and they've got just as business there people as well. Lots of dealings going on.
Definitely.
I did think it was interesting with the Dukes. And the Dukes are the people who own the business that have created this basically bet of who's of switching these two out. Their influence on the other people around them, per se, like the butler, who was Dan Aykroyd's butler, of how much the butler kind of went along with it until he didn't have to go along with it.
Right.
I mean, obviously he did not want to do that because he kept bad-mouthing them at every chance he could.
Well, yeah. But he wanted that paycheck.
They want the money.
He was subject to liking the livelihood that he had, even though he was a butler and a servant, and some people enjoy doing that. He was down for the money.
Yeah. I also think it was, an interesting take on society people about how quickly, when you are no longer in society, how quickly they turn their back on you.
Yes.
Nobody had Dan Aykroyd's back in this movie. Now, granted, that was written there for the movie, but I also suspect that is probably true in a lot of cases.
You see it all the time. I mean, look at social media right now. If something bad happens in somebody's life, you just fill in your blank. How many people come to their side?
Yeah.
People make mistakes. Things happen. It might not even be their fault, but they don't even give them the benefit of the doubt.
Right.
I mean, even in our justice system, innocent until proven guilty. Social media, you're guilty until proven innocent. And then people just don't remember.
Right.
But yeah, so Eddie Murphy's character, Billy Ray Valentine, nobody was around by him till he got money, power, and status, and then everybody wanted to be around him.
Right.
So Dan Aykroyd was the exact opposite.
Well,
no, Jamie Lee Curtis, Ophelia, she had his back for her own interests.
Well, but she said she was going to do that for him to pay her because she believed that he, was tricked.
Right.
She did the hands test.
Yes.
His soft hands.
Get off your knees, Louie. Never worked a day in your life, did you?
But but then you also had, talked about the people, like you mentioned about Eddie Murphy's people. But then he realized, once he had everybody that wanted to hang around him, how much they were just using him for where he was.
Yes.
All his down-home friends, his entourage people.
Makes me think of MC Hammer, who had like 50 people on a paid entourage. As soon as he lost his money, it's gone.
They're gone. They gone.
So what do you think about the setup where the Dukes were trying to corner the frozen orange juice market, and they were paying Clarence Beeks?
Beeks.
Yeah, the inside information.
So, I mean, I get what they were doing, and it was a lot of this. There was a lot of conveniences that were there. And in fact, there was a deleted scene for when Beeks was trying to steal the report, that he went and drugged this police officer, who was guarding the report, and drugged him so that he just went to the cabinet and stole it. The big words "confidential" on the outside of it. But there's, and like I said, again, you have to kind of go along with the movie. This is early '80s, and just in comedy in general. But there's, like I said, there's a lot of stuff that had to happen for the rest of the movie to happen, and that Eddie Murphy had to be in the bathroom at the same time that the Dukes were walking in there to give their information. Eddie Murphy had to be there at the same time that he picked up the phone to listen to the Dukes have their phone conversation with Beaks, so that he would know exactly what train and what time he was coming in on with that. And so that kind of gets, if you're getting into the major issues within script writing. But again, it's a comedy. You have to kind of give some of that up and just enjoy it for what it is.
Well, definitely. What do you think about some of the surprise, I'd say, cameos from different actors in there?
So there are a good many. And whether or not they are cameos from that point or it's just people that we recognize now. But, the good senator from Minnesota, Al Franken, was in there.
Al Franken, yeah.
And I don't know if you...
Well, he was from Saturday Night Live.
Well, yeah, he was from Saturday Night Live. But was he... He wasn't on Saturday Night Live yet, was he?
Oh, gosh.
I was thinking he was more like late 80s.
Yeah, I think so, yeah, because that's when he was doing Stewart,
And then you had... And I can't remember his name, but it was Johnny from the movie Airplane. He was the gorilla handler, one of the guys who was trying to get the gorilla passed off. But he was actually, I don't remember what his name is. He was not as funny in this as he was.
Right. Well, yeah. James Belushi was in there.
Yep. One of his first things doing.
Frank Oz.
Frank Oz was was Yoda. Yoda was not in the movie, but he was playing the corrupt.
Piggy.
He was playing the corrupt police officer.
He was not corrupt.
He was. He took money.
He found the PCP angel dust. I love how he...
No, Beaks talked to him about that he was going to...
I got to go watch it right after this. How did I miss that?
Yeah.
How did I miss that? Seriously.
Yeah. Beaks talked to him before.
Is that a deleted scene?
No, it's in there. It's about 5 seconds. But yeah. He's like, come here.
I want to apologize to everybody who's watching, both people. I'm embarrassed. That's okay. I'm going to definitely watch that tonight, right after this. So okay,
Put your comments down below.
Yeah, tell me I'm a loser. Wow, that's a shame. BB King's in there. You see, that's when you didn't know he's the pawn star. I mean, the pawn shop owner.
Oh, okay. You said he was the porn star.
I said pawn star. Like Pawn Stars from Vegas are not porn star. Good Lord.
That's another movie.
But in Philadelphia is worth $50. Talking about his watch.
Yeah.
But so there's a lot of different people in this movie that you can recognize.
Well, and that's one thing though, in which I don't really see a whole lot now, but in those early 80s or this 80s comedies in general, you did have a lot of cameos from people. Now they all want to get paid for everything that they do. I mean, just like gobs of money, and nobody wants to do cameos that much anymore.
No.
But that always makes it fun and going back and seeing, especially a lot of these movies that the people who did like the little bit parts or what have grown out to be bigger stars.
Oh yeah, we talked about that, like Damon Wayans in Beverly Hills Cop.
Right,
he
right.
Just ate the bananas.
Yeah.
But no, I mean, yeah, you do have to, like you said earlier, suspend some belief about certain things just to get the movie rolling.
But still, this whole cast is fantastic. You got Ralph Bellamy, Don Amici as the two
the Duke
brothers. Just great comedic actors there. Every time I saw Don Amici talk and yell, I just thought his upper denture was just going to fall out. It's just, holds that lip in as he's yelling.
They're tremendous.
And
what movie, here's a little trivia for you. You should know it. I'm hoping you don't so I can redeem the thing. What movie did they show up in after this one as the Duke brothers?
Yeah, it was...
Oh, come on.
No, I know where it is. Go ahead, tell me. But I
you
know where.
You want a hint?
Yes.
Eddie Murphy's in the movie too. Come on.
No, I was thinking Coming to America, but that's
Ding.
Is it Coming to America?
Yes. Because
Okay. I thought that was too sooner.
No. So they are in the gutter because they got taken.
Right. No. Yeah. Well, was that directed by John Landis as well?
I don't think so.
Okay.
I'm going to have to look that up.
Okay.
Maybe while you're talking, I'll go off screen and look that up. I don't think it was directed by John Landis. But no, it was. They were brought back there, and then Eddie Murphy, who's
right, the Prince of Kenan,
yeah, gives him the money, and he gives Mortimer.
But you also had
Trivia.
obviously Jamie Lee Curtis as Ophelia, one of kind of her next big role after all of her scream queens of Halloween and Fright Night, Terror Train and The Fog, Prom Night, but. She did great. She was obviously helping out, Dan Aykroyd a lot, and she just kind of was a little bit of a breath of fresh air, just kind of with a little bit of the lightheartedness to her.
I know what you're talking about. By the way, John Landis did direct Coming to America.
That's what I thought.
He's good. He's
good. That's what I thought.
Mm-hmm. Now, Jamie Lee Curtis did great. I don't think she had to do the one. Actually, it was two different scenes. Basically, anyway, where she had to remove her top.
Yeah.
I don't see why that was necessary.
Well, honestly, I mean, it was necessary to get the R rating, and for all of us to remember that from long ago and have VHS videos. But I do think though that she recollects back on that and regrets that.
Yeah, she does.
I think she said that in interviews and stuff that it really was kind of gratuitous. But anyways, you can make your own thoughts. Denholm Elliott as the butler was fantastic, and you know where he shows up, one of his kind of his next kind of biggest role after that.
After that,
yeah,
with Raiders.
Yes.
Yeah.
With Indiana Jones.
Yep.
Exactly.
Yeah, because when we reviewed Raiders, I kept thinking, I just know him from Coming to America, not Coming to America, from Trading Places. And that's where I kept seeing him in that role as he's helping Indy. But that's okay.
Right. So, yeah, just great set of character actors who I think really helped support this movie and just kept pushing on. I do want to mention, though, the big Wall Street scene at the end, which is absolutely confusing. I don't understand, when you get in the pit and you just start screaming and everybody's, jumping on everybody. There was a little documentary on the Blu-ray about that segment.
Right.
And it talked about, they actually just had like the brokers who do that were really kind of commentating on what the fact, how the movie did it.
Right.
And they said overall, yes, it's a movie. There's a lot of liberties kind of taking place, but overall, that feel that you have down there, he says it's very organized, but it looks very confusing from afar.
Right.
But he said it all makes sense to us. But to me, it was just like, all right, I just know that they're doing something and they're screwing these guys over and we're making money.
Yeah. What I didn't get, even from the beginning of the movie, whenever the Duke brothers were like, we've got to hurry up and get this bid in, like they're on their way to the exchange or to their office. And they're like, we got to do this bid. Winthrop says we need to wait till it's like $1.25. And we got to get it in. It's going to close. I don't know. I thought it stayed open, just like with the frozen orange juice thing. The crop report came out at 9.
Yeah.
But then it's like they bid for like 2 minutes. I know it's the movie time, but it's like, how long was that? Is the real time frame? I can't imagine like, all right, the market for frozen orange juice is open for 10 minutes, and then we're closing it and moving on to something else.
Yeah.
I thought it was open all day long. Or maybe that's what we're used to now with E-Trade and all those other things where you can do stuff in the middle of the night. I have no idea.
I have no idea.
You see what we don't do.
I did think it was interesting that they had televisions in their car that was giving the stock reports. I don't actually know if that was possible at that time.
With money, anything's
possible. But maybe just was trying to show that they were uber wealthy. Just because it was the same computer screen that they had in the Wall Street.
Yeah, really. Yeah.
I was like, oh, it's the same graphics. That's nice.
Let's talk a little bit about the movie and how some of the aspects that probably couldn't be made today because of the script changes. And
well, and I know what you're talking about. So the movie itself is this swapping characters. It's probably been done over and over and over again. There's nothing new with that. There's probably wasn't anything new with it at that time. But a lot of the language that they use in it, or how they refer to people
of color,
that would, in this day and age, would not be. You couldn't put that movie out today exactly as it is and it be accepted. I mean, at one point, I even thought they were talking about trying to remove the scene of Dan Aykroyd in blackface, because there's a scene where he's trying.
Yeah, on the train.
On the train, he's trying to be. It's an awful
he's
job.
He's an exchange student from Cameroon.
Of trying to be incognito when trying to
really.
Because the whole thing I'm thinking,
it's like down to here. It's not.
I know it started out here and they just kind of whipped to white.
Yeah.
But my whole thing is like, okay, I'm sorry we're gonna get away from this, but I swear Beats knew who all these people were.
That's what it looked like. Yeah.
So like they walked in and he's like, yeah, you're the butler and
you're the prostitute.
I mean, because he talked to the prostitute.
Paid her $100.
Yes.
Yeah.
I'm like, so I don't know.
Yeah, I always thought that he recognized who they were
from the get-go.
From the get-go, and he was like letting them play out and just kind of like, "Oh, you help me with my rucksack?" And he's like,
"Yeah, sure,
whatever."
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden, because he finally, says, "All right, Lewis," or whatever, and he takes off the wig for the guy. And so it's like, yeah, he knew, but it's like, why didn't he give it up right away? Or is that for
just
us?
wanted to see, yeah. I think, well, obviously, yeah. I mean, I think it's for the comedy bit, but like you said, that it wouldn't play today. It would not play today.
No, there's a lot of that wouldn't happen in movies today.
No,
so I don't know if that's good or bad. I don't know.
Well, it's not for us to decide right now.
No, powers that be.
Yeah. If you like it, watch it. If you don't have to watch it.
Well, let's get to some controversy.
Ooh.
And we should have started off the podcast. I messed up, and I should have said, the 2023 holiday season. Some people say this is a Christmas movie. Some people say it's not. That's the reason we're reviewing it right now, because I don't know if we have differing opinions or not. Do you think it is a Christmas movie?
I think yes. I think it could be anything. It's what I said at the very beginning.
Anything.
This could be
Way
anything.
to put it in a box.
Well, this could be anything from Thanksgiving to Christmas. Christmas takes place in the majority of the film because it starts off at Thanksgiving.
But I don't know. And
now I'll put it this way: Christmas does not influence the movie at all.
And that's the reason for me that it's not. I know. Oh yeah. Put it in the comments. What do you think? But like you said, there's no point where we're doing this because it's Christmas. We're going here because it's Christmas. Lewis dressed as Santa Claus to get into a Christmas party that they're having there to be able to do certain things. But it wasn't like, let's all get in the holiday Christmas spirit.
The only reason I think why it had to have been at this point was probably because you were waiting for the end of the year agricultural report to be put out so that they knew what the forecast was for the next year.
Correct.
And you just had to kind of backtrack your dates.
I get that. I have no problem with that. But to call it a Christmas movie, I think the whole debate started with Die Hard, which we've gone over. Yes. And that is a Christmas movie, by the way. But people are like, well, Lethal Weapon. Or what about Gremlins? What about Trading Places? It's like
Lethal Weapon. No, we'll talk about Gremlins in a little bit.
Yes, we will. The next video after this one. So, to me, and that's why I say this is not a Christmas movie. It happens during the Christmas season, but it's not a Christmas movie.
But you are welcome to watch it anytime.
Oh yeah,
you want.
Absolutely. Yes, 100%. It's a great movie. So, but you think it is?
If it puts you in the spirit,
who are we to say?
Exactly.
One way or the other?
You get your Christmas salmon that you.
I'm going to remember you said that when we talk about Gremlins. All right. No, I'm kidding. So.
Yeah. All right. So, what would you?
What do you have? Real quick. Do you have a favorite scene or anything?
Honestly, I think probably my favorite scene is the mass chaos at the end that I just don't understand. Because it's just so chaotic, and you're invested. I'm like, are they going to sell? How many people are they going to sell? Did they get the ticket, the paper? Did they get it written down fast enough?
Yeah, I don't get it. It's like, what?
Well, I did learn this. This is sell, and this is buy. They do that movement. That's what that.
There's a lot of favorite scenes, but I like when Lewis is getting arrested and he's with Frank Oz, and then Frank Oz he dips his hand. That's so in the movies. You see it all the time, especially in the 80s and stuff like that. They'll open a bag of powder or whatever, dip their finger and go, you know what that is? And it's like, I'm glad you had an idea because that could have been rat poison. But you're like, that's PCP, that's angel dust. You know what this stuff is? Like, you just ingested it yourself. It's like, but I just love Frank Oz.
He's going to have a good afternoon.
Yeah, he is. It would have been better if he you know what this stuff does? And all of a sudden he puts it in his pocket.
Well, it's
take that to evidence.
Just like Billy Ray.
With the joint.
Else if he had to take it.
He burned his mouth. When he went in there and he put the cigarette in there. I mean, the joint, he's like, it made me think of Grease.
Yeah. But yeah, again, if he hadn't stolen the joint, he would have never known. See?
All right. We're going to do a real grade, I guess. 1 out of 5 or 1 out of 10. I don't remember anymore.
Do 1 out of 5.
1 out of 5. 5 being the greatest. Honestly, I give it a 4.75. How about that?
Ooh, pretty high.
Mm-hmm. It's a great movie.
Yeah. I give it about a 4.25.
Okay.
Yeah.
But average of 4.5.
Average of 4.5. There you go. One of really, I think one of Eddie Murphy's top comedies. Definitely one of Dan Aykroyd's.
Oh, yeah.
I don't consider Ghostbusters as an ensemble. That's probably his better one that he was in. But I think he's a headliner in this one, so I think it's probably one of his best films. And give it a shot if you haven't seen it.
What do you think? Spies Like Us? That's not a great comedy to you? My Girl?
I just don't.
Christmas with the Cranks? Come on.
Yeah. It's like, well, the whole thing of this is why it's his better one is because it still
Blues Brothers. Come on.
stays relevant today.
Oh, that's where I forgot. Blues Brothers not your favorite.
No. But John Landis did that too.
Yes. I see a running theme here.
What is that? All right. We'll see you next time on The Real Factor.